welcome to Your Bossy Podcast. We are on season 4, episode 4. And for today's episode, it is titled Solo Bangkok, Thailand. It will be about all of these days, experiences, overall experiences, and tips for you for the city of Bangkok. I have already shared with you guys about the city of Phuket and the city of Chiang Mai. Those were the cities that I went to before Bangkok. They are in the last 2 episodes for this season. This season is about my solo trip to Thailand, Project Finding Me. It is about how I went to Thailand by myself to explore, find my purpose in life, my passion, and really work on myself with being in solitude and independent. Just like the other episodes, I will be sharing some images and footages for you guys. Look out for that if you are watching this, but if you aren't, it will just be popping up from time to time. I won't be saying when they do pop up. Alright, for the city of Bangkok, I stayed there for 8 weeks. It was from December 6th to February 1st. The weather was really nice there. It wasn't too hot or too muggy or too stinky or rainy at all. It stayed pretty cool and warm sometimes during the day. It wasn't too bad. The first couple of times that I went to Thailand, the odor was really bad in Bangkok, where I really hated Bangkok a lot. And I only stayed there because that was kind of the arrival city or the departure city. But other than that, I didn't make it an intention to stay there and explore there at all. The odor was just super bad, where you honestly just can't stand it for a long time, especially if you're not used to it. So my first couple times there, I wasn't a fan of it. But this time I barely smelled it, only in certain areas where there was a river or a sewer. Then I would smell it if I walked past it only. I stayed at 2 different places in Bangkok. My first stay was at BB Garden and Resort. It was about $22. I stayed there for 2 weeks. The hotel wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst either, but it wasn't the best. The pool was a little bit creepy. I didn't even go in it because it didn't really feel like it was even worth it. At night, there wasn't really any good lightings around the area as well, so it wasn't giving me safe and comfortable kind of vibes. This pool was also located inside. It didn't have any beautiful views either. And they did have a small gym, but the equipments were honestly minimal, and it wasn't even the best, to be honest. They didn't have an AC in there, I believe, so they kept the windows open to kind of keep it cool. And that actually caused a lot of mosquitoes. The first night I went in there to work out, I didn't realize this. And so I did get a whole bunch of mosquito bites. Since I didn't know that there was mosquitoes in there, between every single set, I would just kind of sit there and rest. Of course, these mosquitoes were the type of mosquitoes where they bite only a little bit and then you're not even aware that they bit you, and then they move on. So I did get a bunch of bites, and I later realized this. So then after every set, then I would start moving around so that they don't even have a chance to bite me. Location wise, it was a very busy area, and it was not safe to walk because there was really no sidewalks. When you exit to the left and you go towards the road that you have to go through in order to get to all of the other things, you have to walk through that traffic, and you're literally walking in the road. For some reason, they didn't have sidewalks to really protect you until you reach near the end of that road. So it was really not safe at all. Around that corner though, there was a 7-Eleven, but that was probably the only most convenient thing where you didn't have to go through that road. There wasn't convenient restaurants or places to eat at either. It was honestly just that 7-Eleven. If you do go through this road though, then you do get to a lot more other things, but it is still quite a walk as well. The closest thing to this place that I really enjoyed was this Korean restaurant. It was kind of an all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue and buffet. It was really, really affordable, and it was really good in my opinion. There are some reviews on there where they say that it's not good, things like that. But honestly, I think that it was delicious for the price that it was. that restaurant had the option to have all you can eat Korean barbecue or the buffet or both. When I went, I only did the all you can eat Korean buffet because that already had so much to choose from that I knew I couldn't even eat the Korean barbecue if I did that as well. You can find a lot of the Korean main dishes like tteokbokki or bibimbap and ramen, etc. They even had a whole bunch of sides to choose from, so that was really nice as well. They had a whole bunch of like different kind of juice too. This buffet was honestly just one of the best buffets, and I did go there a couple times, not just within the stay, but at my other stay too. I did come and visit this restaurant as well. Half a mile from this hotel is a Lotus. It is like a grocery store that you could go to. It was attached to a small building that did have a lot of like little food vendors in there. There wasn't too much in there though to choose from, but a convenient grocery store was really nice. Across the street from this Lotus was the Central Rama 9. This is about a little over half a mile away now. This mall was actually a really nice mall. It wasn't too bad where you kind of get too tired, but it was big enough where there is a lot to see as well. They had a lot of food vendors in there too, so many things to choose from. They had a Krispy Kreme donut, which was probably the only other donut that I've seen in Bangkok. I've only seen 2 so far, and this was one of the locations that had a Krispy Kreme donut. I did try sushi from a sushi place in there. It's those sushi places where the sushi comes through a belt and then you grab the sushi on the plate, and depending on what color the plate is, you pay accordingly. So I did that. I think I spent about maybe max 300 baht there. I didn't try too much because what I had and what I ate was already enough for me. I also had a fancy handmade pasta at one of the restaurants in there. It wasn't too bad. I think that for the quality and the price, it was decent. It felt like it was one of the nicest pasta that I've ever had in Thailand that is of quality. There was a night market around the corner of this big Central Rama 9 mall. For some reason, there are booths set up there after hours where vendors would just go and sell food or accessories. I have seen this place change from time to time where sometimes they have more vendors, sometimes they have less. There is really no name for this. It's just right outside of the mall. I think this is quite common for it to happen outside of malls where they just set up after hours. From this market, I did buy some deep fried shrimp, and it came with this really bomb pepper. Like Thai people, honestly, they make such interesting pepper. It's not like pepper that you usually have, like how Hmong people have it, but it's like a sweet and spicy pepper. I kind of got used to it. I kind of started to like it at first. I will say that it wasn't my favorite. I was kind of wanting the Hmong pepper, but I did get used to it, and it is really good with certain dishes. I didn't buy too many things from here. Even though it was like affordable, I just wasn't feeling a lot of the things that they had. Next to the left of this, about 2 blocks down, was the Jodd Fair. It is super, super busy. This was probably one of the busiest market I've ever been to. It was so busy that you're literally touching people while you're trying to walk through. That's how busy it was. I think that it has to do with the seafood boil or the pork tower. The pork tower is really famous. I think it's one of the popular dish in Bangkok. It consists of pork, green, and a lot of lime. It is actually a very sour soup. I didn't think that it was a sour soup until I had it. I always pictured and thought that this famous soup was going to taste like, I don't know, salty, but it was very sour. I didn't have it in this location because it was just too busy. I wasn't trying to stand in line. It was so busy to the point where they had numbers, you guys. So I was not trying to waste my time for that. I knew that there was other locations where I could get them as well. Maybe it won't be as good as that place, but I knew that there was other locations that I was willing to settle for. Other than the area where they sold the seafood and the pork tower, there was other foods and vendors and selections as well, but there was really nowhere to sit. If you sat at a bar area, you had to order their bar item or their food in order to sit at their specific table. So space was really limited. I did have a lasagna there. I started to crave other food because when you've been in Thailand for so long, you can only eat Thai food for such a long period of time. The lasagna was okay. I will say that, it's just not the same as like the US. I don't know. It wasn't the best. It was okay. It satisfied the craving, I guess, but something was still missing. Merchandise wise at this market was okay. There was a lot to choose from, but a lot of it was quite similar to other markets as well. There was one thing that was really different from all the other markets that I've been to. I have not seen this at any other market actually, even though I know that somewhere out there in Thailand, somebody else is doing this as well. There was this vendor that made wood portraits and clocks. Basically, they take a photo that you send them and they print it out and they place it on a piece of wood, and you can either hang it or you can turn it into a clock as well. I did get about like 7 or 8 pieces of some very important people in my life to hang in my studio. It did take up a lot of space in my luggage, but because it was so affordable and it was so nice, I was like, I'm gonna make it work. So I did bring some of those back home with me. So that was about the only unique thing that I found different from this fair. While I was at this stay at this hotel, I did see my friend Namning. She did come to Bangkok, and so I met up with her and her family and we hung out and spent some time together. I won't go into the details of what we did because that will be in the episode of all of the people I met and what we did. So look forward to that, okay? I also did meet my cousin Mal for the very first time when I was at this stay. I went to go see them at their church, and then we kind of did things as well that day. Again, I won't go into the details because she will also be in the episode of all the people I met and what we did. Overall, in this hotel, it wasn't too bad. There was no creepy energy, or I didn't even have any nightmares. I think the only thing is that I wasn't feeling the pool and the gym and the location. Having to go through this dangerous road in order to get to all the other things was not convenient and not the safest. So I don't recommend this place. I honestly didn't realize how expensive it was until after as well. After, I was like, I can't believe I paid $22 to stay at this place for that long. At my next location, which was my favorite stay at all times because it was so convenient to everything, I stayed at the Hoenhao Boutique Hotel Ratchada. It was about $19 to $22 a day, and I stayed there for 6 weeks and 1 day. The reason why I say 19 to 22 because the price did change and I did kind of extend from time to time, so I did get different prices, but that is about the average price that it was for the time that I was there. It was owned by the sweetest family. There was the mom, dad, and then I think it was their daughter and then their son-in-law that all lived in that building. They lived on the 8th floor. I didn't realize this until I was trying to go to their rooftop because I was thinking that maybe they had a rooftop that you could access. And then I realized that this 8th floor looks like somebody lives on the floor, which they do live on the 8th floor. They were the sweetest family though, because they really included me in a lot of things, even though they didn't have to. For example, I would just walk to ask for something and it will be in the middle of like their dinner and they would just invite you to eat with them. That to me, it really hit home because that is something that my parents always did too, is to invite us to eat. And I don't know, in the Hmong culture, that's just something you do. Even though that's something that you do where you invite people to eat your meals, you don't necessarily sit and eat though. So you've learned that it's just their common courtesy, but you don't actually sit down and eat. So I thought it was really nice that they were so welcoming in that way. Even though the rooftop access wasn't available to guests and at the 8th floor was their kind of living space, They did allow me to go up there. I did ask them if I could just access the roof a few times to get some sunset photos, and they were like, yeah, of course, you definitely can. So I did go up there a few times and chilled and just kind of watched the sunset. It was honestly so beautiful. I love being able to see the cities. This view was amazing because there was no glass or anything to block the view. You got to record the city as is. Location wise, it was very convenient to everywhere. It was only a 5-minute walk to the train night market. This is a very common market that people go to when they go to Bangkok. The pathway to get to this market was really dark, but it wasn't too creepy. I don't know. I just felt like the environment was a lot more safe than it was when I was in Chiang Mai for some reason. Getting into the train night market from this hotel was interesting because you don't go through the front entrance, you go through the back. Which you're like, is there even a back entrance? Which, interesting enough, they did have a back entrance. The back entrance was through somebody's garage, I feel like. I'm not even sure if it was built so that people could go through there, but they just somehow created an entranceway through somebody's garage, and then people just kind of go through there. And if you are like a tourist, you would be so confused because you would feel like you're walking into somebody's garage and you're like, you don't want to be rude, so you don't go. But I think it is open to the public because everybody was going in and out of that entrance. I didn't know if that entrance was going to lead to the train night market, but I just did it because there was no other way, and my GPS was telling me that the night market was just on the other side of this. So I just observed what everybody was doing, and then I went through the entrance, and then I got to the train night market. For some reason, this market was really slow during the time that I was there. I'm not sure if it's because the rental for the vendors were just really pricey, but there were a lot of empty booths. So it seemed like something had gone somewhere where maybe people weren't getting enough business as well, and then they moved to like the Jodd Fair market instead. But it was a lot slower than the last couple times that I've been there. The prices were fair. They weren't too overly priced. You could find some decent and affordable things there. There were some things that were pricey, but for the most part, things were affordable. At one side of this market, there is a whole strip of like bars there where it's almost giving like the Banglan Road type of vibe. However, it was really dead when I was there. I think that it has to do with the overall place is just so dead that there wasn't a lot of tourists and people there. Maybe it was the time that I was there, that's why it was like that. But the other 2 times that I have been there before, it wasn't dead like that at all. There were so many people dancing and having fun and doing a whole bunch of stuff. But this time it was just really dead where they barely had any customers. From this night market, I did eat some crispy fried rice salad. If you never had that before, it is a common Thai dish and it's really delicious. I did have some sugar or jelly coated strawberries. At first I thought it was sugar, but then it turned out being kind of like jelly like. It wasn't the best though. I wasn't a fan of it. This was where I had the sour pork tower. I really enjoyed that. I ate it a couple times. One time I did stay up at their rooftop bar and just eat that all by myself. I didn't finish it, of course, because even for like one serving, it's so much. So I did have to pack it and bring it to my hotel. Next to this train night market was a mall called Esplanada. This mall was really tiny. I think there was only like a max of maybe 3 floors. It was like a circular mall where everything was just kind of placed in a circle. It wasn't the biggest mall and there wasn't too much to choose from. I don't think that I even bought anything or even eat anything at this mall because everything at this mall was pretty pricey. When I say pricey, it's like $10, but for me, because I was on a budget, that is pricey, and I'm looking for anything 5 and below. So I didn't end up eating there at all. However, I did end up buying a lot of desserts there. There was this booth that served fresh cake and like fruit tarts and pies. So I did buy from there a few times. One time I went to go buy cake from there and they were no longer taking cash. Maybe something had happened or whatever. The people that the owner hired was, taking the cash or whatever, but they weren't taking cash anymore and everything was online transaction. Since I didn't have a bank and any kind of online transaction, I gave her cash and then she bought the desserts for me, which was really nice of her to kind of go above and beyond for me. Now, from the hotel, it was also about 5-minute walk to this Big C Extra. This Big C Extra consists of Big C, which is like a grocery store, and then there was a whole bunch of other stuff. I think that's where the extra comes in. There was like Dairy Queen and then a floor full of mall-like food where they set up a whole bunch of food where you can go order and then you eat in this dining area and then you leave your dishes there and somebody comes and cleans it. They had that, and then they also had MK Restaurant and Black Canyon. I don't know if it's considered a cafe or a restaurant, but they had that as well. And then they also had a KFC there too. From the floor that had all of the food vendors, there were like little mini other vendors within the area as well, where they would just set up food, and it kind of looked like a night market in there, but it wasn't a night market. It was just like certain booths set up like that. There was this one dish that was served in one of the booths that I really enjoyed and was really popular. The line was always super long, but it was worth the wait. The dish was very similar to kaupia. If you've ever had kaupia, if you're Hmong, then you know what I'm talking about. But it was very similar to kaupia. However, their noodles was just a little bit smaller. It was giving the same sticky texture, and the dough even tasted very similar to kaupia as well. I really enjoyed this soup, and I ate it multiple times. It was the closest thing that I could have to kaupia. Maybe it was their version of kaupia, actually. Who knows? I ate at the restaurant or cafe Black Canyon a few times. They had a lot of like Thai dishes and even some pasta, I believe, but it was decent and affordable. About 2 blocks down from this Big C Extra was the mall called The Street. This mall had a very big open front area where they had certain events going on certain times. The beginning of my stay there, they had this event that was kind of green, and then they had like a drinking and concert type of vibe there. I didn't go to it because it was gated, so I think you did have to pay to go in there. I observed it and it was giving a lot of going with a group of people type of vibe. So I didn't want to go in there and kind of sit alone and enjoy alone when I could have done that at the other markets. But then later on, when this event was done, they had like a Christmas themed market, I believe. And then after that too, they had like a regular market where they just started renting it out to people. And at night or even during the day, from maybe even like 2 p.m. and up, people started setting up their booths already, and they were selling food and selling merchandise. From this market, I did visit it a few times and I did enjoy a lot of the food there. I had some pork namtok, which was so hard to find, you guys. I don't know why it was really hard for me to find pork namtok in Bangkok. So I did find it at this market and it was really delicious. However, there is something that happened that I will share with you later, so keep this moment in mind. Inside the street mall, there was a wide variety of food. I ate these Asian noodles, and then I ate these lobster soup noodles. I tried some cheese roti for the first time. I had some stir-fried garlic shrimp, which was very simple but very delicious. I had ramen, pasta, and then I had a lot of Thai food from this restaurant called So Asian. It's basically a Thai restaurant specifically for Thai dishes if you want it a little bit more like bougie. The reason why I did eat a lot from here was because there was a wide selection to choose from, and then the food wasn't too pricey. It was also very convenient because then I didn't have to wait for a night market to open in order to get some Thai food. From this mall, I did join a gym called Jets. It's a gym that's popular in Thailand. Since it's like a common gym or like a local type of gym, this gym only offered membership to people who has access to banks. And since I didn't have access to bank and I carried all cash, I couldn't get a gym membership at first with them because I didn't have a bank. However, I worked something out with the manager where I kind of paid the manager up front, and then he told me that when the month ends for me to remind him so that my membership could cancel. So that really worked out, but it was kind of an inconvenience, and it did kind of suck that they didn't just offer you to pay straight up for like 1 month. The gym wasn't too bad. I think it was like my second favorite gym out of all of the gyms that I went to in Thailand. Overall, I really enjoyed the street mall the most because it had the most affordable food and a wide variety to choose from. All of the selections that I mentioned, I ate multiple times from there. So it was very convenient and I really enjoyed this mall. Now, you might be thinking that, wow, there's so much food to eat, so much to choose from, but it doesn't even stop here, you guys. After work hours, vendors would set up along the side of the street during that time from like, I don't know, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. They would set up foods outside along the street sidewalks. The vendors that set up were like quick vendors, as in like they had things prepared already, or they quickly did things so that they could keep customers and things moving. They sold a lot of street food, a lot of small accessories, a lot of fruit, a lot of quick drinks, and a lot of other things as well. But it was a lot of quick foods only. This whole rush happens so fast after work hours that by the time you realize it, everybody's already all gone. They don't stay there too long either. At this hotel, I did experience the Chinese New Year with the hotel family. Like I said, they were just the sweetest, so they warned me about that in the morning they might be loud because they were going to celebrate the Chinese New Year. And then I asked them if I could join with them, and they were like, of course. So then I did join them to celebrate the Chinese New Year. I have a whole reel about this where I share my experience and what I did, so you can go and look at that. But I found this experience to be very interesting. I learned that this family believed in setting an altar for their ancestors and also setting an altar for the spirits in the street, which I always thought that, the altar was for your ancestors, but I thought it was really interesting how they believe that there are spirits in the streets to protect you and that walk around and stuff too. That was very interesting to me. We did some praying at the altars, and then after that, we lit up some firecrackers to celebrate the New Year. I didn't know that when you light up the firecrackers, that at the end, there are lucky numbers that you could take for the lottery or as like a lucky number for the new year. So that was really interesting to learn as well. The downfall that I had about this place was that the bed was super hard and uncomfortable. It was so hard to the point where you could literally feel the bed move as if like the frame was moving. It was one of the most uncomfortable bed that I did sleep in, but because of the convenience wise, I just kind of made it work. I think that it was just, I don't know, maybe cheaply built, or they bought a very like cheap version bed, but then again, they probably didn't expect guests to stay there for like 6 weeks, so that's okay. The only other thing that I wasn't a fan of was how cheaply built the walls were. It was so bad to the point where I could literally hear somebody set a plastic bag of items and when they pick it up too. So that's how thin the walls were. I wasn't a fan of that, and I tried to stay quiet majority of the time. I even moved one of the desks to the other wall where I knew didn't have neighbors so that they didn't hear me doing things. I was fortunate enough to not have such bad neighbors, but when I did have like some loud neighbors, it was quite bad. The last thing that I wasn't a fan of this hotel was that they did have a lot of ants. Now, these ants were kind of just at the corner. They weren't like everywhere. They were just like at the corner and at the entranceway, but it did cause a lot of issues as to if you had food, then you can't leave food laying around as well because the ants will find it. I think I bought this custard tart from KFC once, and I knew that there was ants, so I tried to put it on this shelf that I was like, ants can't possibly get all the way up here. But they did find their way up there, so I did lose my custard and I was pretty like disappointed. But I did just go buy a new custard. However, things like that is just unfortunate. I'm not too scared of ants like how I am with cockroaches, so I wasn't too grossed out, but I can see how some people who aren't a fan of ants would not prefer it because of this. Some nights were creepy at this stay, but for the most part it wasn't too bad. I think it was just how the position of the bathroom was. It was right next to the bed, so it gets kind of creepy if you think too much sometimes. So I always close the bathroom door, just like my other stays. Overall, I really enjoyed my stay because it was very convenient to everything, and the hosts were super sweet, so I felt like that made it a lot better. Even though there were things that weren't the best, I think that everything made up for it. Now let's get into my overall experiences in Bangkok. I did have to do a border run to Vietnam. Basically, a border run is when your visa is about to be up and you need to go to a border in order to enter it and then come back so that you can extend your stay in Thailand. Because you can only stay in Thailand for a certain amount of time before you have to do these type of things. So I went and did a border run through this website that I found online. It was the longest day ever. We arrived in this Korean town and then we kind of waited for everybody. Then we went to the Vietnam border and that line was so long, you guys. That line was about like 2 hours long. There were so many people that the shelter didn't even cover everybody anymore, that sometimes there were people even standing in line out in the sun. So I think I even stood in the sun for like at least an hour or an hour and 30 minutes. I wish I would have brought my umbrella with me, but I didn't, and so I just bared the pain of standing out in the sun. All of that process was so long, and the drive there was 3 hours. The drive back was 3 hours as well. It was not fun at all. It was so boring and tiring. Just something that you have to do if you want to extend your stay, but it is just the most inconvenient thing ever. I did shop at Terminal 2. Terminal 2 is not a Terminal 2. It's actually a big mall called Terminal 2. It is, I think, one of the biggest mall in Bangkok. It was actually really big and very fancy and really good to visit if you've never been there before. I think it's really unique compared to the other malls. There's so many levels and floors that you do need quite a bit to visit this if you want to. I will say that like market-wise, there wasn't really too much to it if you are a shopper. If you shop often to common stores, then this store just kind of had everything that you've kind of seen before. What makes it unique is the designs that they do and how much shops there is in this place. In Bangkok, I also went to the Chatuchak Market, which is, I think, only Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but I think there's some misinformation online about this market. I just went on Saturdays to play it safe. So every single time I went to this market, I went on Saturdays. I went to this market about 2 times. The first time was with my cousin Ma, and then the second time I went by myself. I found this market to be really unique and really interesting because a lot of the things were like flea market stuff. If you are into flea market items, then this market is for you. Sometimes you can find a lot of good flea market stuff, but this market had all kinds of levels of flea market things. You could find some wholesale stuff too in this market. They had so much to choose from that you will need like a whole day to shop here. There's so many turns, so many hidden markets in there, and even like around the area of here as well, there's like this other flea market in a building that you could go to as well. There was even a mall attached to this Chatuchak Market too that you could go and see all of the stuff in there too. It was just like a 2-leveled mall, but they do have some things in there. It was really nice to go in there because it was AC'd, so if it was too hot outside, then you could just go in there and cool off a little bit too. I did play badminton with strangers for the very first time when I was in Bangkok. It was an interesting encounter. I will say that it was very similar to the very first time I went to go play volleyball, which was my second visit to Thailand. I went with my partner to go play volleyball. I decided to do badminton, kind of the same way that how I found that volleyball the first time. Basically, it's through this application called Meetup, and then there are certain events or certain things that you could do and attend in there. Some things like these things where you have to rent out the place, then you do have to pitch in and split with the people that show up to play or participate in these events. It's not just sports, it can be arts and crafts as well. There are a lot of other free things that you could do as well in this app. My badminton experience with these strangers was interesting. It felt like everybody was really there to just exercise and get the reps in. They weren't really there to make friends or hang out. Maybe some of them were, but for the most part, everybody was just trying to get some reps in. We rented 2 courts, and how it worked was you played doubles, and whoever you partner up with, whoever wants to partner up with you, will just hop onto the next open court, and you only play 1 game to 21. At least you got some reps in. It wasn't like a tournament style or anything. There were different levels of skills. There were some people that were really rookie, and then there were some that were really experienced, and you know that they do this on a daily. I wasn't too rookie because I had experience, but I was rookie enough where I haven't played for like 7 years. So I wasn't the best as well. People weren't too mean, but they weren't the most welcoming as well. You could just tell that sometimes people did have favoritism, which is okay. Like, it's okay to have people that you want to play with and that you want more competition as well. I learned to meditate for the very first time when I was in Bangkok. It happened at my second stay. I also went through the application Meetup. They had a Zoom call where these monks would host a session 2 times every week to help guide you in your meditation. I started that journey when I was at my second stay, and I continued it until the end of my trip. Unfortunately, because the time difference, so over there it was at 7 p.m. when the sessions happened, but in the US it's like 7 a.m. So, I'm not a morning person. I didn't want to wake up and be tired and then try to meditate when I don't feel comfortable. So I haven't really been attending those sessions, but they do record those sessions, so I can go to them when I feel like it. Meditating to me was such a great experience because I always wanted to do it, but I never knew how. I wanted to learn from the best. Of course, the best is from the monks, so they are the experts at meditating, and I wanted to learn from them. I really wanted to visit like a monk temple and learn from them, but I couldn't find the monk temples in the right time, so I decided that I'm just going to go through online, which it was such a great experience because I got to learn a lot from there as well. They do teach different things each time. It's not always the same things that they go over, and they do rotate between different monks as well. My favorite monk is Monk Daniel. Something about him where he just has the brightest smile, the bubbliest personality that really makes me enjoy his company. The same thing with Monk LP. He also has a very bubbly personality, and I really enjoy him as well. I went into meditating thinking that meditating was like a direct destination where if I'm doing this, then I am meditating and I have reached meditation. But I found out through multiple sessions that that's not how it works at all. If you're interested in meditating and these sessions, I will leave that in the description for you to learn from as well. In Bangkok, I rode on a motorcycle a lot more because there was just so much traffic. However, I didn't ride the motorcycles for like long distance. I only rode it for a long distance once, which was the time that I went to go visit my friend Namning. All the other times was less than a mile away. I don't know, sometimes I'm just lazy and I don't want to walk that mile, or sometimes like one time I had an emergency, you guys. I had to go use the restroom and I got a motorcycle to get me to my hotel faster. So things like that, I did ride the motorcycle a lot more. I nearly died of maybe food poisoning. I don't know if it was food poisoning. I think it was. Something had happened that my stomach wasn't functioning well. This happened at my second stay, maybe towards the middle of it. The day before the day I nearly died, I ate the pork nam tok that I mentioned to you guys to remember this dish, because this dish I think was what led me to the food poisoning. The time that I went and got this dish was later on at night, so I wasn't thinking too clearly about how long the food was sitting there. I kind of was just like, oh my gosh, I found pork nam tok and now I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna eat it. So I bought it and ate it, and the next day I was dying. Like it didn't even happen like right away. It happened like in the evening. I just suspect that it was that, because that was the only thing that I felt like I wasn't careful about, but who knows? It might have been other things that I ate too. I'm not sure. The pain was so bad that I've never experienced anything like this before in my whole entire life. Like, I've had menstrual cramp before and they were bad too, like to the point where I felt like I was gonna pass out or I felt like I was seeing stars. But this one was so bad that I felt like I was slowly dying. Like there was no solution to anything. I was sitting on the toilet. I felt like I had to doo-doo, but then I didn't doo-doo at all. I felt like my body went into constant shocks of where I sweated and then nothing came out, and then I sweated again and nothing came out, and like my body was fighting something, but I don't know what it was. And I was just so tired from pushing and trying to also like keep my body up as well to fight this. Like I don't even know how to explain it. As soon as like I felt all of this, luckily I had Pepto, so I did eat Pepto, but even so, you know, medication, it takes time to kick in. So I ate some Pepto, but I was still sitting on the toilet for like, I don't know how long I was sitting, maybe an hour or two, and I was just trying very hard to like poop, or even like vomiting would have helped, but nothing was helping me, and I just kept sweating on and off, on and off. Then at one point I decided to level my feet off of the ground, because this is known to help you when you are constipated and help your doo-doo come out quicker. At the end of all this, only a little bit of soft doo-doo came out. It wasn't even like diarrhea, it was just soft doo-doo. I don't know what happened, but it was so bad. It felt like I was dying. Maybe there was like a worm or something inside of me, you guys. I don't know. It was so bad and I was so scared. The reason why I was scared is because my partner educated me about that most times when people feel like they are dying, they feel like they have to go poop. But really, their whole body is giving up on them, and that's why they feel like they need to go poop, and they end up dying on the bathroom floor. I was so scared that that was going to be me, and I felt like I was dying, and I felt like I had to poop. So I was like, oh my God, everything. And I was like panicking, and I was so scared that I was going to die, and nobody was going to be able to find me in time to save my life, at least. Later on, maybe they would find me, like if I didn't check out by hotel time, or if like my partners and them didn't hear something back from me, then they would be able to track my hotel that I was at. But even so, I wouldn't have anybody to check up on me right there and then and help save my life, you know? So that was really scary, and that was really sad to think of too. You'd think that I learned my lesson from this, but the lesson that I learned was to not buy the food later at night. I did go back and buy the namtak, but right when they set up, so that I didn't have sitting around food. Even after, I didn't have any experience like this again. One of my biggest fear did come true. This whole food poisoning stuff, I didn't even think about it. It kind of just happened, and it was just so traumatizing. But this one that I'm going to share with you is one of the biggest fear that I thought of, and then it actually did happen. I forgot my wallet, you guys. I went to go eat. I was dining in. I ate, and I was about to pay. I realized I didn't have my wallet. I didn't have any source of anything to pay. I didn't have anybody to call to help come and pay for me or anything. Luckily, I had my laptop, so I gave them my laptop, and I was like, I forgot my wallet. I'll give you my laptop. and I'll come back for my laptop. Is that okay? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. And it was so embarrassing. And I was like in such a rush. I was like, oh my God, I literally thought about this happening and tried to be very cautious about this, but then it ended up happening. I was like, is it because I thought about it that it happened? But it really did happen, and it was a little bit embarrassing, but luckily I had things to kind of give to them to help back me up. I think if I didn't have my laptop, I would have gave them my iPhone, and then, that would have like compensated for my meal as well, or like my ID, because I had to have had something. If I forget my wallet, I'm gonna have my phone. If I forget my phone, I'm gonna have my wallet. So something was there. I never even experienced something like this in the US. Like in my whole life, I've never forgotten my wallet at a restaurant, knock on wood. For this to happen in Thailand, luckily, I was only about like a little over half a mile away from my hotel, so I did run there quick and grab it and paid. But yeah, my biggest fear came true in Bangkok. I sprained my ankle running on the sidewalk. I tried to get some cardio in, and I sprained my ankle 2 times. The first time that I sprained it was just a little bit of a tweak. The second time though, I sprained it so bad that my whole body shifted, and then I came back, and then I couldn't even walk properly. It was quite embarrassing the second time, but I walked it off and I played it off. Even so, it was a bit embarrassing to experience that because there was a lot of people in the area, and then I think that because I don't know, even though it happened the first time, I still didn't prepare for it to happen the second time, and then how to react if it does happen. So yeah, I played it off, but yeah, it was not a great experience. Overall, I think that Bangkok had a lot of affordable food and the most variety of food that I've ever experienced. My favorite was the pork tower at the train night market, the garlic grilled shrimp with pepper outside of Central Rama 9 at that market that I was like, I don't think it has a name. That, and then also the dish that was kind of like copia located in the Big C Extra. Also this pasta from this restaurant located within the street mall. I'm not quite sure what the name is. I couldn't find it, but that pasta was honestly very delicious, and I liked how it came with soup and like a side of chicken, all these kind of things for the price that it was. It was really good. I also enjoyed these grilled fish wraps from this restaurant down the street from Hoenhao Hotel. This fish was a whole fish that was grilled, and then you put pieces of the fish into this lettuce wrap, which consists of like mint, cilantro, onion, and vermicelli noodles, and then it also came with a very delicious pepper. Since it was like a whole big fish, if I bought this dish, I had to eat it for lunch and dinner. But it was so delicious. It was one of my favorite dishes in Bangkok. Last but not least, my favorite dish was the pork nam tok. Even though maybe my first time was the food poisoning with it and I nearly died, I really enjoyed that dish, and the next couple times that I did get it, it was really delicious and authentic. Now, my overall rating for my whole experience and stays in Bangkok and how I felt about it, I will say it is a 9 out of 10. It wasn't perfect because of traffic, but for the most part, with everything that I experienced within this stay, everything was a 9 out of 10. I only have a few tips for you. Number 1, do not run on the sidewalks, obviously, because you will sprain your ankles. The way that the sidewalks are built, the bricks lift. So that's why I sprained my ankle. It's because there was uneven pavements on the sidewalk, and that is throughout Bangkok where I was staying at. Keep that in mind if you do plan to like jog, or even if you're just walking to, be cautious of uneven pavement. Number 2, do not buy food on the street that looks like it's been sitting there for a while. You will get food poisoning, just like this booth with the whole pork nam tok thing. I bought it later during the day, and I think that that's what caused me to have food poisoning. Any street vendor or anything out there, if you feel like it's been sitting there for quite a while, just don't take the risk, even if it's affordable. Number 3, make sure that you bring Pepto in case you do experience food poisoning. I don't think that they have Pepto in Thailand, and this was the thing that really saved my tummy from time to time if I ever felt like my tummy was acting up, or if I felt like I haven't doo-dooed in a while. Number 4, riding motorcycle taxis are not as scary as it seems. I feel like because these Thai people are locals and they've done this their whole life or at a young age, or like, this is their lifestyle, that they're really good at driving the way that they drive and through other traffic. I will say though that even though it's not as scary as it seems, still play it safe. That's just me in my opinion. The reason for that is because sometimes maybe that 1 out of 10 might happen. Out of all of my experiences with riding a motorcycle taxi, I've only had one where he really put my life at risk and I wasn't a fan of him. He was driving super fast through like the small roads where even through the speed bumps, we were driving at 20 miles per hour, you guys, through a speed bump. When you're driving that fast at a speed bump, you are like throbbing up and down, you guys. That's how I was. Even so, with him being as bad as he was, he did have the audacity to ask me to rate him 5-star, which, I was just like, okay, but I did not rate him a 5-star because I don't think that, if you don't deserve it, then you shouldn't as well. The reason why for that is because you literally have somebody in your hands and you can't be putting people's life at risk the way that you are and then expect a 5-star. And, at the same time, it goes, I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but I didn't rate him at all. Instead of not even giving him a bad star, I just didn't rate him. The reason for that too is because he dropped me off at my location of where I was staying. So I was not trying to give him a bad review or like a 1-star so that he could find me and come after me and track me either. So I decided just not to review at all. My last tip for you, number 5, find the right location to stay. If you find the right location to stay and book your hotel, you won't have the trouble of traffic too much. The second place that I stayed at was really convenient to everything. So I had access to everything, whatever I wanted to. I didn't have to drive in order to get there. If you don't pick a location where it's convenient to everything, you will deal with a lot of traffic, which will, in my opinion, ruin your experience in Bangkok. The second time that I was in Bangkok, I remember going to that volleyball meetup and it was supposed to be a 20-minute ride, but it ended up being a 2-hour ride. That's how it is in the city of Bangkok. Like, there is so much traffic that you will not get to your destination according to the time that your destination says you will. So choose your location wisely so you don't lose a lot of time in traffic. That is about all of my tips, experiences, and overall experiences and stays with you guys. Now I'm going to go into the message of today's episode. The message for today's episode is that try again. Try again because you don't know if your next experiences will actually turn out wonderful. Due to the fact that my first 2 experiences in Bangkok was not the best experiences, I honestly didn't want to go to Bangkok and even spend time there. However, I ended up going to Bangkok and I ended up staying there for the longest time. The reason why I rated it so high, and it is one of the highest rating out of all of the cities that I went to in this trip, is because this place felt like home. It was so comfortable and convenient to the point where I felt like this place was a place where I could stay and live forever. I didn't have to stress about finding my next location, finding my next food, finding all these other information, and stressing about all of these other things, that I found a lot of time to myself. And because it wasn't too quiet or too loud as well, I was able to be in areas if I wanted it to be loud and be in areas if I wanted it to be quiet. It provided me a lot of time to start thinking about what I wanted to do in my life and reflecting on my experiences so far. This is why I was able to find my purpose in life and my passion during this period of my time within my whole travel. It was in Bangkok. It was such a great experience that even when I came back home, because I forgot to call my spirit to come back home and everything, if you know what I'm talking about, then you know. But I would think about my experiences in Bangkok and I would want and desire all of the paths that I took, all of the places that I visit, all of the routines that I did in Bangkok was what I would think about quite often. I did calm my spirit, so you don't need to worry about that. But, that's just how intense it was for me, is that Bangkok really made it feel like home. That is why my advice to you is try again. Try again because you don't know if this might actually be the best experience that you'll ever have. Thank you so much for tuning in into today's episode. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week and that you stay being the bad boss that you are. Bye!